Ramcharit & Associates National Insurance Consultants. We specialize in national insurance services, claims, compliance, contributions, and appeals. Contact us at 665-4387, 623-7952, or 657-9852. Or visit us so we can help with all your insurance needs.
Welcome viewers to Hotline with Ann Dookie. Thank you for joining us on IETV. We have a month series of this hot topic on national insurance payment, which is all over the news and in and out of the offices. People are discussing how their national insurance payment is being deducted out of their salaries and yet it's not being paid. As a matter of fact, only recently it was published that a multinational company, after investigation by workers, they had complaints that their NIS were not being paid. According to one employee, quote, everything was coming out of our salaries as normal. Another worker said, we had no reason to believe anything was wrong. Yet when they went to the NIB offices, they were told that it was because of a glitch in the system. I'm not trying to be the merchant of bad news here, but this is happening throughout Trinidad and Tobago, even with this new administration in office. Let's welcome Mr. Maharaj, NIS expert, and he is here to answer many of your questions that you may have on the national insurance policy. Welcome, Mr. Maharaj, to Hotline.
Good afternoon, Anne, and good afternoon to the viewers of Trinidad and Tobago and the wider Caribbean, including Canada and America and England. It is a pleasure to be here with you, Anne, to discuss a lot of things about NIS today and for the next few weeks. Before we start, I would like to do some thanks to my former managers and supervisors at NIB, where I worked for 21 years.
Yes.
They have trained me well.
You have a lot of experience there, Sat.
Yes. And,
how many
I
years?
Was trained 21 years at NIB. So I would like to thank all my managers and supervisory staff. When I started in 1977 and I quit at 2009 when I joined Mr. Dolsing and Mr. Ramcharit. And I must thank Mr. Dolsing, he has trained me well as well, and Mr. Ramcharit, who is sponsoring this program. When I left NIV in 2009, I thought I could impart knowledge, only to realize that although you know every single thing about NIS, or should I say most of the things, explaining it to the layman and to the tribunal and to the TV station is another thing. And it took me about 5 years later to understand, because you can know every single thing about that job, but if you cannot explain it properly, it doesn't make sense. So it took me another 5 years as a consultant, and after 15 years, I am here. The last time I did a TV program was in 2022, I think, just before COVID, or during COVID. And we had radio programs, etc. Mr. Dolsing is no longer with us, so may his soul rest in peace. Mr. Ramcharit is with us, he's listening, and he has asked me to do these programs until further notice. So my role here, Anna, is to let the insured public, the 600,000 persons that are insured with NIB, of their right and responsibility So I'm sharing my knowledge today and for the next few weeks, maybe longer, to the wider population.
Sure.
Thank
Sat,
you.
let's get the ball rolling here. Government just rolled out a big set of reforms in the national insurance system in Trinidad and Tobago. In fact, in the 2025 budget, Finance Minister Davindranath Thakur, he said that there will be higher contribution rates going up from 13.2% to 16.2% effective January 5th, 2026. What does this mean for both employee and employers?
Well, this means that people will be paying more from their pockets. Employers will be paying more, and they will be taking home less. Remember, most people are working for 2013 salary. There has been a few increases in the in certain unions, including NIB. Some people are taking a little more, but the increase will hemorrhage a few more dollars from their salary every month. Sorry. Before I go on to talk on the increase, most people think that 3% is just a small amount. That is not true. He mentioned 3% increase.
Yes.
But he didn't say 3% of what? President Minister came on Facebook and said 3% is only $1.50. That is not true.
That is not true at all.
Yeah. So 3% is 3% from 13.2 from 1st of January 2026. It goes up by 3% to 16.2% of the assumed average weekly earnings. Now, many people will ask, what is the assumed average weekly earnings? And most people don't have a clue of what we are talking about. So I will explain what is the assumed average weekly earnings. Now in NIB, based on Chapter 3201, there are groups of salaries because everybody don't have the same salary. Some people work for small salaries, some people work for medium, some people work for large salary, and some people work for very large salary. So let's explore. There are 16 groups of salary, starting from class 1 to class 16. The person that could be insured under the laws of Trinidad and Tobago are anybody who is working for a salary of $200 per week. Okay, so that's 200. So anything over 200, they will be insured, and they must be 16 years old. And they could be insured straight on to 65, provided they're still working. We'll come to that just now. And as the classes go up, like class 2, class 3, up to class 16, there will be higher rates, higher salary. So let's look at the salary for class 16. Anybody working for $13,600 per month or $3,128 per week is in class 16. So what about the salary beyond $13,600? That is not insured. Sorry to say it so. There is somebody like an engineer, doctor, minister, working for $80,000 per month. I'm just saying, only $13,600 is insured. So the assumed average weekly earnings is more or less 16.2% of, let's say, 200, and that's equal a contribution. Similarly, it will be 16.2% of the salary of $3,128 per week in terms of contribution. So the higher is the salary, the higher is the contribution. Now, from next year, that 16.2% goes to 19.2%, a 3% further increase. I work out the calculation based on the increase. And in terms of dollars and cents, by January next year, people will be paid 48% more or less more on their NIS contribution.
Well, sir, the minister have defended this position and say that the increase is phased out to ease the burden. What do you have to say about that?
I am coming to that. I just want people to understand how the calculation of what they will be paid. Now, they have to increase the contribution. They must increase the contribution because NIB has been paying out more than what they're collecting. The executive director was on the Joint Select Committee a few weeks ago talking about how much money was paid out, and the figure that she quoted, and I quote her, $6.5 billion. Now, if you are paying out $6.5 billion and you're only collecting $5 billion, that means to say $1.5 billion has gone as a loss. So where do NIB get this money from? And the answer to that is they has to go to the income that they invest at both foreign and local. Now the foreign income is doing pretty well because of a number of things, including the increase in the oil prices. The local investment is not so good. But at the end of the day, it brings in a lot. And in 2024, NIB in investment income received $932 million. So that's quite a lot. In 2023, investment income brought in $1.2 billion. 2022, investment income was $1.2 billion as well. So overall, the NIB has to increase contribution. They must increase contribution for the system to survive, for us and beyond.
Is it true since 2020 they have started losing contributions? Payments, they had to pay out more than they earn?
This started in 2019.
2019, just
Yeah.
before COVID, that is.
Yeah, and COVID was a cause and effect because you have less people working, you have benefits has to be paid out, and things has to be paid to their long-term benefit recipient, and it increases as time increases. Now, one of the cause of this paying out more benefit is because of political interference. I don't like to go into politics, but in 2012, NIB was asked to pay a retirement pension of a minimum of $3,000. And this still exists today. And people are getting $3,000 when their real pension, the average of which is only $2,000. Where NIB get the balance of money?
How that is so? Break that down for us.
That is so because they were asked by the political affiliates in 2012 to raise the retirement pension from $2,000 to $3,000. And since 2012, this has been happening. So for the last 14 years, this has been happening. And NIB has been paying the difference between $3,000 and $2,000. So they have subsidized the pension more or less over a period of time. I have asked for the amount of subsidy, and I have gotten the answer. And the amount of subsidy that NIB paid from 2004, which was when it started. But it was much in 2004, it was much in 2008. Overall, the amount of subsidy that NIB paid to retirement pensioners is $28.2 billion when they could have had that money in their bank accounts, gaining interest and doing investments. And that is one of the main reasons why NIB is paying out more than collecting.
So just to go back to those figures you were quoting about earnings and the deductions, I have one viewer here texting a question to explain it further. So tell me if I'm correct. If a person is earning a salary of $5,000, that means that $50 less per month they will be taking home, so that amounts to $600 per year. Is that correct?
Can you repeat that question? Huh?
If a person is taking home a salary of $5,000, let's say, let's have a
Per month, right?
figure. That
Per month.
means that their earnings have dropped, and they will
That's
be
right.
taking home $50 less per month, so that's $600 per year.
That's right. That's right.
That's correct.
They will take home less, and the employer, now we only looking at the employees, but the employer will have to pay twice as much. They will have to find that money and pay.
Of course, because their rate will go up.
Their rate will go up. It will impinge on their profit margin. They may as well send home employees, and people will maybe have to work a little longer and harder.
So let's say for the same $5,000 salary I just called, for an employer, it means that is $200 per month extra he has to put out per employee. Per
Yeah.
employee, yes?
Yeah, that's right. So a lot of wage adjustment will have to take place because the union will be start calling for more money.
Where does the union come in this? We are not hearing them.
Well, the union is silent on this because I had a meeting with Tutor and I explained to them, and they didn't realize the impact it had on their members' salary.
They are thinking
Yes,
it's
you
just
might-
1% and 3%, and they are
Yeah.
not looking at the direct impact it would have on their take-home pay.
Remember, a contribution, 1/3 of that contribution is paid by the employee and 2/3 by the employer.
Yes.
That is money that the employer put in your account at NIB. And by the end of your working career, the average employee who is permanent, let's say as a teacher or an engineer or a doctor, will pay to an average of, presently, that amount of money is close to $500,000. Recently, I did one. Person paid $634,000 and only getting $4,027 per month. That person will take 10 years to recover that
To
money.
recover that amount of money that they have contributed.
NIB is taking that money and investing it and making the same amount of money over a period of 20 years, or 30 years, or 40 years. The thing about it is, would that person live?
Exactly. They are not sure to survive this
Right.
time around to collect even their pension.
And that is something very important, and I hope the union take note of it and do what it's supposed to do.
So let's take a short commercial break, and when we come back, I would like you to explain to our viewers what is insurable earnings as we kick off the second part of our program. We'll be right back.
Ramcharitan Associates National Insurance Consultants. We specialize in national insurance services, claims, compliance, contributions, and appeals. Contact us at 665-4387, 623-7952, or 657-9852. Or visit us so we can help with all your insurance needs.
Welcome back, viewers, to Hotline with Ann Dookie on IETV, where we are discussing this very important topic of NIB, NIS, National Insurance Board, or the National Insurance Scheme, which many workers, they live and they hope that when they retire that they can collect a pension. How does this impact on your pension if they have increased the retirement age? We'll be discussing that and much more after we talk about insurable earnings. Sat, welcome back. What is insurable earnings?
Insurable earnings, first of all, to understand insurable earnings, you have to understand insurable employment. And what is insurable employment? Insurable employment is anybody who's employed under a contract of service, not a contract for service.
Okay.
I'll explain the difference just now. Or another way is someone employed, a paid apprentice. Yes, that is insurable employment. Okay? Let's look at contract of service. Let's assume you give someone your house to paint. And you tell them, well, look, I will pay you for this house when you finish paying this house $50,000. That's a contract for service. But let's assume you insure them as an employee and you tell him you'll pay him a daily salary, right? And that is an insurance under a contract of service. So if anything's go wrong with that employee of yours, you will be fined for not insuring them. Now, having said that, under the Chapter 3201, anyone who works for a salary of $200 or more has to pay NIS. That the respective earnings the employer will deduct, and from 2026, 1st of January, which is this year, he must deduct NIS from the salary. So let's make it easy. Let's say the NIS is $39.
Yes.
So he will deduct from your salary $13, and he will pay twice the amount of $13, which is $26. And the contribution in this case will be $39 per week. So if you work for 52 weeks, you must have 52 contribution paid by your employer. And that contribution is used to pay benefits. We'll come to that because that's a long story. That will take over.
That will take an entire program.
That will take more than an entire program. That's going to take a lot of programs. So let's look. Once you qualify under that, you are in insurable employment or insurable insurance under the National Insurance Board. Okay?
Yes.
And you are only insured for up to 65 or until you cease employment. If you are under 16, you are not insured. After 65 or after you retire, you are only insured in Class Z in case you have an injury on the job. A lot of persons do not know this. And they collect their pension, go back to work, get injury, and think that's it. They have no benefit to collect. Yes, you have a benefit, and that benefit is called injury benefit. Okay?
So listen, viewers, you have injury benefits. These things are not highlighted, you know, Sat, because NIS, they don't want people to be aware of it.
Well, we will, by the time I finish with these programs by the end of this year, everybody in Trinidad and Tobago, especially in Iran, are waiting to hear these things, because when they go to NIB offices, I'm sorry to say, they may explain it, but they may not explain it how.
They are explaining it limited.
Yeah.
They will give you a brochure, or they will say go online.
Right. Because in my days, I used to have training every single day. Now, all that stuff. So if they don't know it, they can't give you information. If you do not have money, you can't give people money. You know?
So let's talk a little bit about the retirement age going up. Starting
Very good.
January 2028, the age for a full NIS retirement pension will rise by 1 year every 2 years. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's true.
Pardon?
Yeah, that is true. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So it'll
So
move from 60 to 65 by 2036.
That's right. So
Yes. So what happens if you retire before January 1st, 2028?
So anybody who retire this year and next year, the last of which 31st of December 2027, will qualify for a retirement pension or a retirement grant based on their number of contribution. But from 1st of January 2028, if you are 60 years, you have to wait 1 year until you are 61. Okay? Because why? Because the law states that the retirement age on the 1st of January has just shifted from 60 to 61.
Right.
This will affect people who born in the year 1968 and beyond. So once you were born on that date, 1968 and beyond, you will be affected. And what date in 1968? 1st of January 1968. Because in 2028, you will be 60. But the age increased, so you have to wait a year. So you have to go home, or if you get employment, you could work and make another year and come back when you are 61 to submit your claim for retirement benefit. Okay?
What about those who have early retirement? You know, some people may be forced to retire early in life.
That's right.
What is their situation?
You have the policemen, you have people in the state enterprise. They may choose to go home before 60. Once they make their 33 and a third, and they will collect their pension. But at the end of the day, NIB will not pay them.
Is it true they get a reduced pension?
Well, they could choose to get a reduced pension. And the recommended figure is that for every month you retire before 61, you will lose 0.5% or 0.5% of your benefit. So let's say you retire 12 months before 61, you retire at 60, but then we choose to tell you that you cannot make a claim until you are 61. So in other words, you will lose 0.5 multiplied by 12, which is 6% of your pension.
Well, you know, Minister Tanku said that these changes were necessary because without decisive action, the fund would collapse within the next decade. What are your comments on this?
That is true, because let's say you have a business and you're paying out more than what you're selling item less than what you buying the item for. The business will collapse. And Mr. Tanku, Minister of Finance, has decided to take affirmative action by increasing the contribution rate as well as increasing the retirement age over a staggered period of time starting in 2028. And it will become full-blown by the year 2036, where you must retire at age 65. So someone, let's say, go home at age 55, either they could work with an ex-employer or wait. However, there's one benefit that they may be entitled to, but most people do not know it. And I've gotten complaints from a lot of my clients who went to NIB and were told, go home and wait until you're 60 in this case will be 65. But the person may not reach age 65. The person may get sick. The person may suffer a stroke and unable to work what that person is entitled to. That person is entitled to a benefit called invalidity benefit. For persons who do not know, please visit our office and we'll explain this benefit more thoroughly, because at the end of the day, you must satisfy certain conditions, which we will go through in each benefit in later programs, and we will highlight all the documents and the contribution requirement and what the doctor has to say about your medical condition before you can claim invalidity benefit.
Yes, perhaps next week we can deal with that, all the different types of benefits that are available to citizens.
Sure.
One thing that strike me, Sat, is Minister Tanko again, he commented in the budget that since the days that we could rely solely on NIS, pension and government assistance is slowly coming to an end. Your comments?
Well, he is right. Because if a lot of countries increasing their retirement age, and why they increasing it is to balance the budget between income and expenditure. And if the age increase, that means to say a lot of persons will suffer, because most people, the average age in Trinidad for men it's 68, for women it's 72, right? And if you had to wait for a pension at age 65, you may or may not make it. If you go home, your employer sends you home at age 55, you have to fend for yourself. NIB wouldn't be able to help you. You have to go and find a job and work. So you need to find some other benefits and like an annuity plan, etc., to ensure that you have a safety basket so you can get some money or find a job. And this has been happening throughout the world. In Canada, the retirement age is 67. In America, it's 67, and they want to increase it to 69. England is the same thing. The only country in the Caribbean where the retirement age is 60 as of December 31st, 2025 was Trinidad.
Trinidad and Tobago.
And Guyana. Trinidad, and Guyana. And we have moved away from that, and we are on our way to age 65. And it didn't came like a thief in the night and surprise people. These talks were in the air since 2018. I have been on.
Of course, you have emphasized on it many times, even in this program before.
That's right. And we have been talking about it, and the UNC government decided to do what they have to do and save the National Insurance Board from collapse, total collapse. Sorry to say so.
Sat, is it obligatory that an employer must pay NIS for their employees? Is it the law?
Yes. Once you are employed under a contract of service and your salary is $200 or more, you have to deduct NIS as an employer and contribute twice as much and remit it to the National Insurance Board. If you fail to do that, you will be charged. A lot of employers, especially the contract employers, hire people for 2 and 3 months and do not pay any NIS. That is illegal. Another type of employment where no NIS is being deducted are the Venezuelans, who are replacing the Trinidadians, who are taking away the Trinidadian jobs, and no NIS is being deducted, and no health side charge is being deducted, and of course no tax is being deducted. Yet they are utilizing all the services of the Trinidad and Tobago State Enterprise and hospitals and education.
So
But
some
it was-
measure, this government should put some measure in place.
That's right. And the person to put things in place is the National Insurance Board.
They should
I
make it
have-
mandatory that they have to pay NIS. Because as
it
you
is-
rightfully say, if you go to the hospitals, you would see them there, the health
Yeah.
centers and so on. They are accessing every public service that is available, just like any citizen of Trinidad and Tobago.
That's right. And at the end of the day, the person responsible for that is the compliance of authorized officer, of the National Insurance Board. They're supposed to police every single employer in Trinidad and Tobago.
And they are not doing
Uh-huh.
that.
And they are only auditing 1 in every 6 employers. So for example, you may audit an employer today and you want to see them in maybe the next 10 years or the next 10 years, if I may use the earlier term. Sometimes you never see them. An employer could be doing what they want and only paying for, let's say, 5 of his 10 employees. And the way how NIB authorized officer audit employers, I have done a lot of cases in the tribunal, and we'll talk about the tribunal, who's doing a marvelous job, especially where employees' contribution are missing.
I was just about to ask you if you have any experience bringing employers to justice for not paying NIS.
Well, NIB have a section to deal with that. But you don't hear any employers being dragged to the High Court. You don't hear justice has been prevailed for any employer. You're hearing employees not paying NIS, they're not seeing the NIS, and recently in the papers, this topic is very, very important, especially employees who are closer to 60 and they want their NIS. But employees in Trinidad and Tobago don't understand the NIS system. Do you know employees has more money in NIB than in their bank accounts?
Yes, because the money is being deducted weekly
Right.
from their salaries.
And it's remitted to the National Insurance Board.
And it is
And
hardly
that money-
likely that they will go into their bank account and deposit money.
Sometimes the bank account, it has only $20. But when I calculate their retirement grant, I'm sorry to say it so, it's over 250,000. And some people do not
Yes,
realize
it's
this.
hard to believe, and then they can't reap the benefits of it.
Yeah, and when they decide to make their claim, they have to line up in the hot sun, no washroom, no water, no sympathy. I saw the ambulance one Saturday at in front of San Fernando office, only to realize two persons collapsed and hit the concrete floor. Why? And retirees should go through all these things. That is not good for Trinidad and Tobago retirees. And we have to do something about that.
Well, by highlighting these issues on programs like this, hopefully the citizens will become aware that they have a voice and that they can take decisive action and get justice and get what they have worked for. It is not something given out to them, it is something that they have earned. And let's take a short commercial break, Sat, and when we come back, we have much more to discuss on national insurance with our NIS expert, Sat Maharaj.
Ramcharitan Associates National Insurance Consultants. We specialize in national insurance services, claims, compliance, contributions, and appeals. Contact us at 665-4387, 623-7952, or 657-9852. Or visit us so we can help with all your insurance needs.
Welcome back, viewers. The Hotline with Ann Dookie with our NIS experts at Maharaj. Sat, welcome back.
Thank you.
Yes, as I mentioned earlier, government says these measures were necessary to increase, it should increase the NIS reserves by at least 15 years. That takes us to 2040. You agree with that?
Yes, I agree with that. Hopefully, let's look at two things. The number of employers has decreased since COVID. How much is decreased by? The number of employers in this country was around 22,000. That has dropped to 18,000. And 2,000 of these 18,000 don't have permanent contracts, etc. So they will work 1 month and do pay NIS for the next year or so. So the number of employers has decreased. Now that employers has to pay more NIS, we may find another decrease and closure of business, because some employers has hinted out to me that it's not good. People do have less disposable income to buy goods and services. So you have a lot of sales, you have a lot of losses, and people are closing down business. However, on the positive side, higher contribution means higher benefits. And we'll talk about those things when we reach benefits. So it has a lot of positive things in between now and 2040. If the employer population increase, for example, Trinidad has some contract, Petrotrin will reopen back, a lot of contractors get jobs, and we have the gas and oil sector moving, we may get back those employers who lost.
That is where investment comes in.
Yeah.
Yes.
So maybe could bounce back before 2040, maybe by 2035, maybe before. So anybody who expecting an increase in benefits, don't
look forward to that.
Don't look forward to that. And you will have seen that between the lines in the rates of contribution. So whoever receiving $3,000 by the year 2036, if they are alive, the $3,000 wouldn't worth $3,000 of today. It may well worth half the amount, or maybe less. Okay, so a lot of changes going to happen between this year, next year, and the following year.
Changes like?
Changes in terms of employment, changes in the contribution rate, changes in the retirement age. It will have employers freezing their employees' salary. They may not get overtime, and some of the employers, especially in the state enterprises, have started it. And they will have to go to a cost-cutting measures. A famous chicken company in Trinidad and Tobago, their operating profit has reduced to quite a lot. And one of the causes is the increased NIS they have to pay. And next year will be even worse. So we have to do something as fast as possible. If we do not do it, we're going to get ourselves. Because if the amount of employees, which is around 600,000, don't increase, and matching the amount of payments of retirement that is given out to retirement pensioners, then we some problem. But based on the increase, I see that the NIS system, their income should increase from 5 billion to at least 6.5, maybe more. Next year, with our next increase, it may go to 7.5 to 8. And remember, behind that, you have some expenditure increasing because people are living longer.
I have seen these comments on social media, Sat, where people are complaining that they are not getting their TD4 slips. What can a person do if that happens to them?
That is a topic that is very interesting because interviewing my clients, most of them, 99% of them, do not keep TD4. And if they do keep, they just keep the last few years. And the NIS system, because of problems they had in the past, which I don't want to get into, a lot of persons getting a grant instead of a pension. If you have any problems like that, feel free to visit our office and we'll sort it out for you. The absence of a TD4 doesn't mean to say that you should be short paid. But in NIB, if contributions are missing and you don't have documentary evidence, you'll be paid based on the physical contribution they have on their system.
If say an employee contribution is missing, can you do anything about it? You can't investigate it?
Sure. Well, NIB is supposed to investigate it. But if contributions are missing, and let's say somebody get a grant instead of a pension, we can take it to the appeals tribunal, and we usually win our cases. The appeal tribunal is an independent body. They base the decision on facts. And from my 300 appeal or maybe more I did.
Is it like a court for national insurance?
Yeah, well, it is a small court, but a lot of people feel they don't like court and they don't want to go to court and they will take what they get, only to realize that 5 years
From the time they hear the word court, they become nervous.
Yeah. So it's not a court per se, but it operates like a court because you're
dealing with the law
on one side and you have us on the other side, and then you have the members of the tribunal. It is a tribunal.
Right.
So people don't be afraid to appeal. That is your constitutional right. And if you do not exercise your right, nobody wouldn't help you.
Nobody will stand up for you if you don't stand up for yourself. So
we have had cases where it stayed in the tribunal for like 17 years. And then we were looking for the contribution for 17 years. They look and they didn't find anything. The person had 746 contribution. But there were witnesses who worked with this person who came to the tribunal and gave evidence, yes. And we found out that this person worked with him before NIB started. And we won our case. That person get over $700,000 arrears plus $3,000 per month. Unfortunately, she is so ill she cannot use 1 cent of it, except for medical purposes.
Right.
And there are many others like that we have.
Last night you and I were talking about this roti shop worker Sat, without calling names, and how they didn't realize that they were entitled to payment benefits. Emphasize that for our viewers.
Right, there was this guy who used to go and buy roti at least 3, maybe 4 times per week, and this lady used to serve him roti for 15 years.
Right.
When she made her claim, because her contribution was only less than 100, she got a lump sum. But the roti shop owner didn't pay 1 cent contribution. Not 1 cent. So we did the appeal for her, it went through. We got the purchaser who's to purchase roti every 4
or 5 days or whatever.
5 days. He said, yes, this lady used to serve me roti at least 4 times per week. And he did testimony.
So there you had your proof.
Yeah. Your job as a worker is not to ensure that NIS is paid, Your job as a worker is to make sure that you work. And the employer duty is to deduct the NIS and remit it to the board. And they have authorized officers who will police these things. Unfortunately, a lot of people are being shortchanged because of missing contribution. And that lady got $3,000 per month. I don't know if she's still alive, but her claim was allowed by the national
but it is a
insurance.
commendable case knowing that it is a roti shop worker. It is somebody with a low earning income. And they had rights. And if she did not stand up for her rights, she wouldn't have moved forward.
Exactly. And the need for social security is more than the person who may have a government job in a state enterprises. And their contribution are missing for some years. And they too have to take it up. But at the end of the day, the NIB do not explain how they process your claim. So if you get $4,000 and you're supposed to get $5,000 pension, you wouldn't know. However, as soon as I see the contribution statement, based on my experience, I will know. But you have to come to me within 6 months to appeal. And after 6 months, you have an extra 6 months. But after 1 year, sorry, you cannot appeal. But you can still come to us and we will, all the numbers are on the screen, take note of them. The address are on the screen, take note of them. And you can visit us.
What's the difference between an invalid and a disabled person and their benefits?
An invalid is someone who gets sick naturally, get a stroke, heart attack, get an accident outside of the job, become invalid as a person who cannot do any type of work for at least 1 year. That's an invalid.
They would have benefits to get?
Yes, they, of course. Once they satisfy the contribution requirement, they have benefits to collect from NIB. And a lot of persons do not know this. They get an accident, they stay home, and it's only when they were talking in the bank or in the rum shop, then they say, well, how come I getting benefit and you're not getting anything? And then the talk will spread, and my office and Shabuana's office and Holspin office will be busy. And we do the claim for them, and they get the money, and they are satisfied with our service. The disabled person who get an accident on the job or suffer a prescribed disease and suffer a disability, that person will be paid either a grant or a pension. If the permanent partial disability is 19% or under, he or she gets a lump sum. If it's 20% or more, for example, if they lose a limb or they lose their eyesight or they fell from a scaffolding, they damage their back, they cannot walk again, based on the injury, the disability will be assessed by the doctors who will inform NIB what is the disability and payment will be made. However, with an invalidity, you cannot work. Once you collect in disability, you cannot work. If contributions comes to NIB and see you collecting invalidity, and you are working, your payment will cease.
Is it a chargeable offense?
Well, it is a chargeable offense, but NIB hasn't taken anybody to court.
They will have to take the action.
Pay back the money. With a disability, which is the correct name is disablement, you can return to work and collect a disablement pension. So you might be disabled for, let's say, 20%, and you collect in a monthly payment from NIB. You can still go back to work and get injured again.
Sat, in the next 4 minutes or so that we have as we are winding down, I'll leave it to you to make your closing remarks and inform viewers what we will be discussing here on NIS in the next couple of programs and how you will address it.
My job as a NIS consultant is to inform the wider public of their rights and responsibility. I have been doing this for the last 15 years. I have helped over 20,000 people. They are happy with our service at Ram Charity and Associate. And I want the wider public, even if you have a concern about, even you're collecting money and you have a concern about it, visit us. We'll check it out. We'll make sure that it's correct. Because you work for the money, not us. Not you, and the person who work for it and deserve every cent that they contributed to the National Insurance Board. And once contributions are missing, I could guarantee you that you are being underpaid by NIB. A lot of persons visit my office from the police to the state enterprises worker, to the CPEP worker, to the KFC worker, from the manufacturer and tourism. And I am sorry to say that I am disappointed with the service meted out to these people by NIB. There are some good ones, but that's the minimum. I expect NIB to improve their service drastically, and I know they're working on some stuff to make it easier and better for the population who wants to submit their claims. But I find it is a lot of IT stuff, and the emergent pensioner don't know anything about IT. And they have not informed the pensioners. The employers have been informed. Some of them are paying online, and they want to take claims online, but it's a very difficult process. I hope they get through with it. And I hope that everything works out for them.
Yes, Sat, in the next couple of weeks we will be discussing, perhaps next week we'll talk about the various type of benefits that employees are entitled to and how they can go about getting it, and if they have questions they can consult with you.
Sure.
Right.
And the first benefit we want to discuss next week is retirement benefit.
Sure.
Which
that's a very big topic.
91% of all 42,000 claims received by NIB for the annual year, which is from 1st of July to the 30th of June the following year, are linked to retirement benefit. And people need to know their stuff. They need to know what to do, how to do it. They need, a lot of people do not know where to turn to.
They don't know, they think it is a dead end.
Yeah.
So thanks for joining us. Stand for what is right, even if it means standing alone. I am Ann Duki. Thank you for joining us.
Ram Charity and Associates National Insurance Consultants. We specialize in national insurance services, claims, compliance, contributions, and appeals. Contact us at 665-4387, 623-7952, or 657-9852. Or visit us so we can help with all your insurance needs.